Colorado, great. Yeah, it really, these people look terrific and I look decent. We're in a hotel in New York, so
I could tell that you were in a hotal, right? It's the stripes on the wallpaper that gave you
yeah.
away. Great.
Well, we are
Anyway,
live. Hey, everybody, this is Patrick from the Poison Pen Bookstore in Scottsdale, Arizona. And it is always a treat to have our friend James Patterson back with us to discuss. This time he's going to be discussing numerous projects, especially his brand new book, Holmes, Marple, and Poe, which we understand is the beginning of a new series, which is great. And if you have questions for Mr. Patterson, go ahead and type them into the comments field. And Barbara will bring me on screen towards, well, we're going to be a little bit earlier this evening, but probably in what, a half hour or so. And I'd
yeah,
be happy to ask any of your questions. So Barbara, over to you.
thank you very
Wahoo.
much. Wishing everybody a very happy new year. Let me say that Jim has very kindly signed book plates for our copies. So if you want to order one, we can provide you with a signed book plate. So, Jim, you're where? In New York, in Florida? Where are you?
In New York. In New York, we did a little TV yeah, today. I'm going to do a little bit tomorrow and then back to Florida. Yeah.
Well, after my experience in Boston yesterday, I can see why you're in Florida in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a sleet here yesterday, pretty Saturday and Sunday, some
Indeed. So a few words about Mr. Patterson, not that anybody watching this probably needs them, but
written too many
recognized
books.
as the most popular storyteller of our time, a creator of many unforgettable characters in the series, including Alex Cross, The Women's Murder Club, Jane Effing Smith, Maximum Ride, which is for young adults, and Princess Diana, as well as military heroes, police officers, and ER nurses. He's also co-authored best-selling novels with Dolly Parton, and I remember we had the privilege of debuting his book with Bill Clinton, and Lee Child, if I remember, joined us to host that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
It was wonderful. It was
Lee actually went out on the road with us. He did it. We did it, I think, in Washington, D.C. Lee came in, which was terrific. Yeah. He was great.
Well, yes, he's a sensational host. I wish that he would come back and do more.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but it's interesting. The little switch, a little late life switch there for him.
he always told me he was going to retire, and I never believed him because I don't think that authors actually retire. But by God, he really
Get retired.
Oh,
No,
so,
yeah.
Jim, what's going on? Or Lee. Anyway, Jim has also received an Edgar Award, which is the prestigious award for the Mystery Writers of America, 9 Emmy Awards, the Literary Award for the National Book
10 now,
Foundation.
10 Emmys.
10?
Another one, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, the biography I'm reading from is
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Did you
Well,
see
the
that?
PR people aren't very good.
And the National Humanities Medal. And I want to say thank you to Jim for all the wonderful support that he does for independent bookstores. I can't remember how many years it's been since you started that, Jim, but I remember how thrilled we were that the Poison Pen was among your first round of recipients.
Yeah. Well, one of the fun things there in April, I have a book coming out. It's a comedic title, The Secret Lives of Booksellers and Librarians. And
Right.
it's really fun, and people will get a real feeling for bookstores and how hard you all work, and also how funny you are, and the stories that come out of both running bookstores or working in bookstores and in libraries. But it's a really fun look at that series of books, which includes Walking My Combat Boots and ER Nurses. The whole spirit of that is that when you finish, you'll understand something that you thought you understood but didn't. And in this case, you really will understand that bookstore that you go and visit and the libraries that you should visit probably more than you do.
So, series concepts. Obviously, I know that you are deeply engaged with everything that comes out under your name. But sometimes, who presents some of these ideas to you? I mean, do they come from co-authors? Or their
They just
ideas
come
you
from
have,
me.
and then you
There's
pick
almost
somebody?
No, it's all me. I mean, not to pat myself in the back too much, but yeah, no, it's a sickness. I was just I was at Little Brown today, and there's just so many ideas that I have, and I say everyone. There was one, Mike Ledwidge. There was one that he came up with, but it's rare, and I think I've told you I have this pile of things in my office, ideas that there must be 1,000 ideas in there for books. So if somebody wants one, well, think of your own
They
idea.
can come shop,
Not
right?
giving them away. Yeah. No, but
So-
it's a crazy thing. Well, like, I went out to Hollywood. I mentioned this on TV today, and uh, I told them about this Holmes, Marple, and Poe, and I said, you just buy this, you should buy it on the title. And they did. And same with whoever's watching and listening. And by the way, if you don't read that much of my stuff, this is a good one to play with because it's not terribly violent. It's clever and interesting. The writing, I think, is pretty good. But this is the kind of idea I'll have. All right, here's Alex Cross, and Alex Cross is out in the world, and he's a good detective, and that drives that series. In this case, you've got Holmes, Marple, and Poe, and all of their. So Holmes it has that deductive reasoning approach, and Marple is just this wonderful observer of things, and she picks up these little tidbits, and then Poe is just sort of crazy and aggressive and will try anything, and so as a team, it's really fun to read about and write about. I think
I
certainly
like I
fun to
like
write
the
about.
scene where where you begin the book, where there's an old kind of disastrous building
Bakery store, yeah.
Yep.
Originally
And
a bakery.
so that's how you introduce the three characters as they show up, and the real estate agent is like, what's all this?
Uh-huh.
Stirring of this building, and you have them buy it. And there's a seed there that you carry all the way through the story, so which I can't
Yeah.
discuss it without spoilers, but when we get to the end, you can see why this particular building, why this particular location for these people.
Yeah. And,
So
the fun thing about it, you do a book called Holmes, Marple, and Poe, and then it's set in like 2024, 2025, and you go like, how does that? And that's like a mystery for all the readers too. What's going to happen here? What's this all about?
what did you decide to do with Watson? Did you decide that Holmes needed a sidekick, or in this case, he already has two that you've brought in?
Well, we brought in a kind of a sidekick. There's a NYPD person, a woman who's involved, and she'll be in the second book as well. So she's not really a sidekick per se, but she operates that way a little bit.
Well, the truth is, with all private detectives, at some point there has to be an actual policeman if anybody's going to get arrested. I mean, private eye can't do that. So if you look back at all these classic detectives, Lord Peter Wimsey, it was his brother-in-law who was at Scotland Yard. I mean, it was always, we had an Inspector Japp for Poirot, and Miss Marple's nephew, who was a cop, if I remember. And, Poe, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I've read Poe, whether there was an
I remember the one thing about Poe is he kind of, on some level, was very instrumental in terms of creating the early detectives. He had that one detective, Dupin, I think the name was.
Yeah.
Who's in Purloined Letter. Yeah. So he was, not that he was the first, but he was right up there in terms of these very clever detectives who we love reading about, because we want we want murders and problems to be solved. We want somebody solved the border problem. We want these things resolved, and the nice thing about a lot of the murder books is you get a resolution, you get some satisfaction in your life by reading these stories. So we need that. We deserve it. I hate that thing about guilty pleasures. No one should ever feel guilty about reading a book, ever.
Thank you.
Oh,
I
maybe.
completely agree. Now, if we could digress, and I could ask you why you think that fantasy and romance is sort of, coming on in a huge wave. In my day yesterday at the Boston airport, I actually bought a copy of the first Rebecca Yarros in this new series because I'd run out of other things to read. And I was really fascinated.
I like it. I thought it was good. I agree. I don't read a lot in that area, but occasionally, like Hunger Games, to me, it just was a good story. The original Aragon, and he was a kid when he wrote it, was just
Right.
well done, and that's why I felt about this other one with you. I thought I read the first one, I read the second one, but I thought it was a good story.
It was. It had lots of great sex. It also had dragons.
He kills pretty much. The beauty of that thing, she just kept knocking people off who you were kind of interested in. Whoops, he's gone. Oh, she's gone. Whatever. Why am I selling her book? Did she try to sell my book? No. The hell with those the Yarrows books. This Holmes, Marple, and Poe.
I
It's,
just,
it's fun to read.
I find it an interesting trend is all, I mean,
Yeah.
after 35 years doing this, what we know is that, different genres come and go. I mean,
Yeah.
historical fiction, when I was, back in the 70s and 80s, you tripped over a Samuel Schellebarger or whatever it was, Thomas Castaigne every 5 minutes. And then it all kind of went away, and all those historical fiction writers came in and wrote crime fiction. So we had all those great historical detectives like Brother
Well,
Patrick.
with rom-coms, what'll happen, what can happen, because nobody's kind of policing them and helping them and editing and whatever. So a lot of them won't be very good. And some people will read them and be disappointed, and that will hurt that whole industry. There'll just be a lot of them where people go, yeah, it feels like the same book over and over and over again, or it's just not very well done. Because a lot of them are self-published and whatever, which is nothing against that per se, but it's tricky. But if people have a lot of bad experiences, they sour on things, and I think some of that will happen with that category.
I think it happens with all categories. Do you remember the Da Vinci clones? I mean, there was like 5 years afterward when all you got was another religious conspiracy thriller. And, also part of it, Jim, don't you think it's just saturation? It's like if that's all there is all of a sudden, or, people, I think, read a few of them and then they think they want something different.
Yeah.
So
Well, and when Da Vinci came out, it was very fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so obsessive about the details and a fair amount of good history. It's an interesting thing. I just, as you know, I have a Michael Crichton book coming out in June.
Right.
And the estate and Michael's widow came to me and they said, "Would you be interested in finishing this book that he had started?" And Michael loved Hawaii. And I said, "Well, let me read the 70 or 80, 90 pages, whatever it was." And I read them and I said, "Yes, I would want to write, one, because I want to know what's happened." And he was great at, and the hook that he set there is that there's a volcano which is potentially going to destroy the island of Hawaii. But that's not the worst thing. There's something else there that's even worse. And you don't know what it is because he never wrote it. But I said, well, that would be cool. I really want to. I want to find out what's happening, and I'm going to have to create it and write it and finish it. But the challenge for me, which getting back to what we were talking about, is that his books, and to be true to them, you have to have a lot of science. So I don't usually put a lot of history or science into my books, but in that book, there's a fair amount of a pretty delicious science about volcanoes and that kind of thing. And it was fun, and it was different. It was a new challenge.
You do have fun doing this, don't you? That's
I love it.
the sense I get.
Yeah. No. I'm very lucky. I've said this before, but somebody said you're lucky if you find something you love to do, and then it's a miracle if somebody will pay you to do it. And that's my deal. I get paid to do this.
So Brian Sitz, tell me a little bit about Brian Sitz, because he's a
Talentless. There's really I don't even know why I put his name on the cover. No. He is it's a really fascinating thing. We were friends. He was in advertising. He was a pretty good advertising writer. We got involved doing a kid show, which won like 6 or 7 Emmys. But he had never written any fiction at all. And I said, well, let's try something. So when I was doing the little book shots, we did one of those together. And he just has it. He has that gift. In terms of who I write with, I mean, he's one of the best or the second best. He's really good, really talented. He doesn't believe it, but he is. He just has that ability to get right into a scene, write it well, just put enough description in, good dialogue. And Holmes, Marple, and Poe, it's not an easy one to do. So it's challenging. And some of these you go like, well, this is not going to be easy to write. And so it's been a delight to work with him. And he's delightful too, because he was off doing industrial films, which he didn't love. So now he's having fun, and I'm having fun, and it's very satisfying. He's a very nice human being.
To write these 3 characters, you have to give them distinctive voices and distinctive personalities. So, which of you I mean, how do you work together? Who do you write them separately? Do
You know,
you?
I never do these, but I mean, yeah,
No.
we make it work, and it really depends on the writer who I'm working with. Sometimes I'm doing a lot, sometimes less. The voice, always in the beginning, it's making sure that we have a voice. I mean, we're doing the Idaho murders now with Vicky Ward, and one of the things we're dealing with now is what's going to be the voice of this story. What's the voice? How are we? And yeah, people go, oh, Jim's books are all the same because of the short. They're not. There's such a difference in the voice. I mean, yes, most of them do have shorter chapters, but Holmes, Marple, and Poe is nothing like Alex Cross, which is much more violent. It's more of a cozy, you know. But I mean, I think with good storytelling, but it's a different. So the voice is very different. The voice, you know, with Mike Lupica on 12 Months to Live, very different. So and I think that's part of the fun of it. But the voice is crucial. It's crucial, and then to figure that out.
You've done such wonderful work with so many writers. I was thinking about Mark Sullivan, whose
Yeah,
early thrillers I absolutely loved. And then, he started writing with you, and then he went off and had his great idea for,
yeah. He had a big hit. A couple of one monster hit and another big hit too. Yeah, nice man, fun. He went to Hamilton, which is where my father went, upstate New York, and my best friend in Florida also went there. So I almost went to Hamilton. I just kind of missed out on that, but you know.
So when you're writing this kind of a book with these three detectives, you can't just have, well, or any mystery. It's hard to have just one storyline. You really need to have, several things going on, and then sort of one big pull-through case that,
Yeah.
in the end
Well,
is
you
solved.
could do it with one case, but not the kind of pace that I like. So it really keeps it hopping to have a few cases going, and you do in this book. There are a few cases, yeah.
Right. I mean, Miss Marple, if you look at the Christies, look how short they are.
Yeah.
She actually wanted people to be able to read one of her books between dinner and bedtime so that they didn't lose track of the plot. And her
Uh-huh.
publisher used to sort of add the books he made to get signature, to get the book because that was so she
You're
wanted her.
you're you're
Okay,
frozen, and the voice is coming a little weird now. So hopefully that will get resolved. You're frozen. Go ahead, try to talk.
You might pop in here if my signal is weak. We always have this problem with weather. Patrick, you there?
You're frozen, but it's a better freeze now. You look better, and now
Okay.
now
Now
your
you're
eye.
back.
Okay, we're back. We did.
Back.
Stay with us.
Sorry.
Don't let us freeze and start.
It's actually freezing in Scottsdale. And whenever that happens, our signal here at our
Oh,
house.
really? Okay. Really?
Yeah,
Freezing? Okay.
I know. It's remarkable. Patrick, what kind of questions would you like to ask, or does the audience have it, just in case I unreliably freeze again?
Let's see here.
Da, 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 da,
There.
Or Jim can just interview himself. I know he can. He's good at it.
da, da, da,
Can
da.
you talk a little bit about working with Dolly?
Working with Dolly. Yeah, sure. The nicest thing for me about working with Dolly and working with President Clinton and now working with uh, Sherry Creighton, the widow, is the friendships that have developed. And with Dolly, right off the bat, I went down to Nashville and I was thinking maybe we do some kids' books. And I did have this one idea for Run Rose Run, the fiction that we eventually wrote. And I started talking to her about it, and we just hit it off so nicely down there. And she's got a big sense of humor, and she's pretty irreverent, and I'm pretty irreverent. So it was great. And by the end of 2.5 hours, we just made the deal. No agents, no lawyers, no nothing. And then when the agents and lawyers found out, they were like, "What? What? How could you make it?" Yeah, that was the deal, and we stuck with it. So it was a delight and a lot of back and forth. And she's a very good partner. Obviously, one of the great things about her involvement is just the authenticity about a struggling singer coming into Nashville and making it, and what are the what works against a young singer or any kind of musician, whatever. breaking into the music business. And similarly, same way that President Clinton in terms of the authenticity. I'm actually doing another book with him now, and he's just great in terms of, oh no, here's what the Secret Service would actually do. And then doing some of the writing, and Dolly did some of the writing and some of the suggestions about how scenes might go. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, so many of her classic songs are story songs.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Same way that Springsteen's are, they.
Yeah.
So was
Yeah.
she a
He wants
natural?
to take one of the well, I mean, just in terms of what a buzzsaw she is. So I went down to Nashville. We agreed with the two of us that we do the book. I left her a brief outline. 2 days later, she returned. She had notes on the outline, and she had written 7 songs for the book and whatever would follow. At that point, she wasn't planning necessarily to do, a music, but she decided to then record the songs, which was cool. So the book came out, was the book and the song. I mean, they weren't together, but you could buy both or separately, whatever you wanted to do.
Let's see. What series has been your favorite to write, and what inspiration have you gained from that?
Well, it's really a mixed bag of, on the one hand, I'm always interested in what's going to happen with Alex. And I think, as I've said, we have a series with Amazon Prime Video that's shot already. And they tested it, and it tested higher than anything. It's very good. It's edgier than the books. It's a little more contemporary, I think, and I really approve of it. They really did a terrific job, and I've seen all the episodes. So I'm not sure when. Probably April. I'm guessing April, May, maybe. We'll see. It's hard to tell out there because the strike, and they're all trying to juggle and figure out what goes where. But it did test through the roof. And was very lucky because originally they turned it down, and then one of my partners from Skydance went to Amazon, and they said, "You're turning it down for the same reasons you just turned down Reacher," and they said, "Okay, we'll greenlight it." So they greenlit fiction and a documentary, and then a scripted on the Idaho murders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a weird one to do too. That's another one where The Voice. What are you going to do there? Are you good? Is the potential, the possible villain? I mean, are you going to make a big deal out of him, or are you going to? I don't think we are. I think we're going to really try to deal with the tragedy for those towns and 2 colleges, Washington State and the University of Idaho.
I saw that they chose to destroy the house.
They did. Well, they did. Yeah, no, they tore it down, which is strange. On a lot of levels, you would think that the jury might want to go through there for one thing. It's overwhelming to those towns. It's such a, I mean, for the prosecutor, the judges, the police department, they've never faced anything like that. A small town, that stuff like this doesn't happen there. So at any rate, but it's
I think they were in part trying to discourage tourism, people who wanted to.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, lots of luck with that, because the trial will draw incredible more publicity than they've had so far. Whenever the heck the trial is going to happen.
Right. Has it been scheduled?
Well, initially he wanted a speedy trial, and then I think he probably thought it over and went, wait a minute, why do I want to be in a hurry to, I mean, because right now his life is a lot better than it will be if he's convicted. He gets to see lawyers every day. That'll all go away, if he's convicted, which, I don't know if he will or he won't. I assume he will be, but who knows?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they bring in the McNaughton rules in any of the, insanity defenses or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Because lawyers are all playing legal games at the moment. I went back and failed to ask Jim, because I'm going to ask him now. We've said Holmes, Marple, and Poe, but it isn't actually Sherlock Holmes or Jane Marple, so what do you call them? You've given them different first names.
Yeah, they have different names. Here's a little piece just out of the book, just a sense of the reality of them. Holmes, Marple, and Poe investigations, he said. He flicked the business card from his wallet with the flair of an illusionist. The client took it. Holmes, Marple, and Poe, she said, is that a joke? Holmes leaned over the desk. Absolutely not. We're private investigators, best in the world. So, and the thing, and this is a game we'll continue to play through the series, which is they all claim to be descendants of Agatha Christie, Conan Doyle, and Poe, and who knows? But they all have very good explanations of why they are and why and they're all fans. They live together in this brownstone, and they have a huge library. And one of the things they have is all of the works associated with Holmes, Christie, and one of the. I mean, it's interesting with Holmes because people assume there were only 4 novels, which is, I mean, Christie, I think there were around 20 or so, but only four Sherlock Holmes. You think there'd be like 20 of those, but that's not the case.
No, well, it was mostly short stories because he wrote for the Strand magazine.
Yeah, but even that was like one burst of them, I think, the short stories. I think they were all published around the same year, I think.
Well,
Don't trust me, but
no.
I'm not lying. I'm just forgetful.
It's a complicated story, but in any case, another question is, here they are, they buying this derelict building, and they're saying they're private investigators. Where's the money coming from in this one?
I don't know. Good
For
question.
them? No, the money for them in order for them to be, renovating.
I don't know. Maybe they inherited money from the Christie estate. No. Yeah, good question. I don't know. I don't know where. All I know is what's in the book, and that isn't in the book, so I don't know.
It's just,
No, the third novel, the second one's done, but the third novel maybe we'll get into where's the money come from? Good point.
well, for a long time.
If you were the editor, we probably would have had to slide that in there somewhere.
Back in the early days of crime fiction, there was a really popular investigative thing they were clergy or rabbis or something. And part of the reason was that a priest like Father Brown or a rabbi or whatever was already being paid. He had a job, he had a salary and so forth. And so if he wanted to investigate crimes, nobody was saying, how can you just like lock up the bookstore and go off and investigate? It was
Christie's first was what, Murder at the Vicarage, which was
that was the first Miss Marple.
The first Miss Marple, yeah, right.
Yeah, the Poirot was different, and Miss Marple was one of those genteel spinsters who had some kind of private income, and there was a lot of that going on.
My Marple's a little not quite as a little different, and she's my favorite actually of the characters, Marple.
I find it so fascinating that it's been over. I mean, I didn't read all Christie in real time because I'm not quite that old, but I have read most Christie's in real time. And I just love the way that she still endures and can be adapted, to like your contemporary character. And yet everybody really knows Jane Marple, or in your case, Margaret Marple. Right.
Well, interesting. We had a little bit of an issue in England. So the title over there is Holmes, Margaret, and Poe.
I'm
not going to get into what the problem was, but so we had to change the title there.
Well, copyright is tricky. I'm fascinated to see that Mickey Mouse has now come into the public domain.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. There's been a whole bunch.
Didn't he do with Mickey Mouse in the title? Wasn't there a Len Dayton that?
I don't know. Was there, Patrick? I haven't.
Up the Stars.
Yeah.
Anyway, England has different copyright laws than we do. So heaven only knows how long. It wasn't that long ago, Jim, that Sherlock Holmes came into the public domain and you could write about him. For a long time, there was a trust that the Holmes, the estates had set up, and it went to a charity. And so they were really tough about protecting their copyright, not letting anybody write anything about Sherlock Holmes. But it passed. So that's where we are. Poe probably doesn't come into it. Patrick, any more questions that you might want to ask?
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's a real desire for old school types of investigation, classic, with all the technology that permeates everything around us. There's something refreshing about reading about detectives who
Newman's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Boots on the ground kind of,
Yeah.
footwork out there, casework. Um, okay, a couple more questions
But
here.
it's not the most fun thing in the world to sort of make it all techie and stuff. It's
Right. I know
yeah.
a lot of PIs are just watching social media and catching people that way. It's
The
amazing.
old idea of a gumshoe is pretty obsolete at this point. Archie Goodwin was out. Remember, he would go out of the brownstone, unlike Nero Wolfe. There's another series for you.
Yeah.
Wolf, another iconic character. Love him.
So Sharon would like to know, do you read other fiction while you're working on a novel, or do you find it distracting?
Yeah, I don't find it distracting. I mean, there is always a danger that you'll get a voice in your head that isn't the one you want because you're reading somebody. But for the most part, I don't have that problem. But I have occasionally had that problem by reading somebody and the voice gets in my head. There's
Mhm.
one of the writers that we work with on one of the TV things that we're developing. And this person has written a lot for television, and you know that voice is in this writer's head, and you don't want it because it's just like it's that TV voice, and you just go like, okay, it's very. I got it. I understand. And it's like da 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 da, and it always does that. No, we don't want to do. We want da 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 da. We want variety. We want it to go places that we weren't expecting it to go. I do anyway.
A little minor key in there sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so question from Facebook. Are book reviews important to you? Do you even pay attention
Oh,
to
I
that?
hate them. Uh, look, if they're fair, and the person is reasonable, it's an interesting thing about, all of my, not all, but many of my conservative friends think I'm way too liberal, and my liberal friends think I'm too conservative. And I think the reason they think that is that I can see the other sides of things. And where I'm going to ultimately vote, that's a whole different question. But I can see, I mean, not to get controversial here, but I see both sides of the abortion issue if you're being honest about it. And I wouldn't have to vote unless obviously it was clear in terms of the candidates that was a monster issue, which may happen this time, or if it comes up in your own life in terms of really having to make that. But I get both sides. And that's one of the things that, in terms of the way I look at the world. And that's why, I actually can go on CNN and I can go on Fox and whatever, because, I'm listening. I want to hear what and I definitely want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear Nikki Haley's point of view. I want to hear Gretchen Whitmer's. I want to hear, yeah, well, what do you stand for? What do you, how do you see the world,
Do you
Or
find
they
that
stand for
people
anything, which I think is a critical question some of the
That's the
time.
problem. Yeah.
do you find that people that are serious, or not even serious, just people that are readers and read a lot of fiction, have that, or maybe, they're exposed to different points of view that they might not be in
You'd
real.
like to think, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
certainly all of my friends, Lupe or whatever, they're all kind of somewhat open-minded, as opposed to they just see the world as this black and white. And it's so obvious, and my view of the world is right and yours is wrong. I really, I don't get it. It's like the book banning thing. Honestly, my notion is I don't want somebody who I don't know telling my family members what they should read or shouldn't read. You take care of your house, I'll take care of my house. I have, if parents want to go, the kid brings home a book from the library, they say, you're 7 years old, I don't want you reading the Hunger Games. Okay, they can have that discussion, and that's a parent's right. You're a parent. But to sit there and decide what should be in the library, like Maximum Ride got banned in a couple of counties in Florida, and like one person came in and they said, "Okay, it's banned." What is that all about? That's like insane. And
On what
Maximum
grounds?
Ride, seriously? I mean, come on.
Why did they ban it? Just curious.
No idea. And I don't think they did. They just said it's not appropriate. And the county just banned the book. What?
They've given way too much
They
power.
hadn't read it. They hadn't read it. It's like, but that's how crazy. I mean, are there occasional books come along, how to be a Nazi at 8? Yeah, fine, ban it. But that should be rare. That should be rare, in my opinion.
Remember the anarchist's cookbook and all that controversy.
Well, I don't
They're
please don't.
not, they're not
It all
even
seems so
taking,
quaint now somehow.
yeah, they're not even taking digital books into account. I mean, all this furor, most of it is public libraries and school libraries and all, but that's not the only place that people can source books. So it's
Yeah,
a
right.
stupid effort anyhow, because it's not like they can just erase it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the kids they're dealing with much worse on the internet. And that's not even a good excuse. I don't even care about that. But the thing of it is, I'll take care of my house. You take care of your house.
Right. Right. Let's see here. Oh, this is a good one. Do you have any particular?
Finally,
Yeah, well, they're all good. Sorry. But any particular publication day rituals?
I drink a lot.
Drink a lot?
Drink a lot. I start in the morning on the publication. No, publication day rituals. I mean, invariably, like today, not invariably, but usually there'll be publicity things to do, like tonight, which is a lot of fun. Or this morning we did Good Morning America, and we did Kelly and Kelly and Mark, Kelly and Mark. Yeah, and that's kind of fun. And so that's a thing but I don't have any, like, I don't do a little war dance or
Do you
go
have
to church
your
and
one cigarette that you allow
please,
yourself a
God,
year?
please. Because I don't think God is really gonna, and I'd be disappointed in God if it did answer stuff like make my football team win or make my book go to number. Yeah, I'd be disappointed in God if I said make my book #1, and no, don't do that. Just
Is
take
it
care of other
still?
stuff.
I know you've published lots
Don't
of
let
books.
studies get over. But yeah, you work on America. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Don't worry about my books. God.
I know you've published a lot of books, but is it still kind of gratifying to see
Yeah.
the first finished copy that comes?
The whole thing. I grew up in a small town in upstate New York, and one of the joys of my life is I still see the world through the eyes of this kid from Newburgh, New York. And it's fun. I mean, we're doing this thing tonight. This is great. And some people are watching or listening or cursing us or whatever they're doing. And I have a book out, and that's incredible. And it's probably sold a few copies today, and they're probably selling a lot more now, thousands now. And by the way, just to get back to that, buying a damn book, it's really good. And by the way, buy it at Poison Pen because it's a really good bookstore, one of the best.
Thank you very much. Also, you will get an autographed copy. And I realized that I should have started this out by giving Jim a salute with my glass here, because today is publication day, which, if you know anything about publishing, is a little bit unusual.
Diet Barks. It's not very exciting, is it?
Well, still, publication day
Is that root beer?
Mm-hmm.
Boylan's.
Goes with
Boylan's root beer. Boylan's. Unbelievable. Boylin. Unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah, I get paid to pitch them, but so what? Yeah. No, it's really good.
I don't know if it's really an accurate level of measurement, but there's been a lot of publicity coming from your publisher, from you and whatever. And it seems to me
we have a new PR person. She's really good. She's so much in the past.
She is. No, she's great. But one of the ways that as a bookseller, I can measure how enthusiastic everybody is, about a book is the amount of material that shows up. And this one, I mean, all your books obviously are very well published. That's not the issue. But this one's had more. It's like an extra burst of attention. And so that led me to think how much fun you're having with this, because
the title sticks to the wall, which is you hear it once and you kind of, it's okay. I'm aware of that, and I'm kind of curious about it. And as I've always said, I mean, it's a simple-minded thing, and it relates to covers, etc. You need a good cover because nobody has ever. It's not totally true, but nobody's ever bought a book that they didn't pick up. You got to pick up. If you don't pick them up, it doesn't sell. Of course, online now you can do it, but.
So on this cover, we have a larger figure and then two smaller ones. Who's the biggest one? Is it Holmes?
I believe it is. Yes.
I think it is, right. And then wait, Helen Gray or Helene, how do you want to pronounce her name? Helene. She's the detective.
However you want to do it, because I learned from the movies, because they asked me at one point how I pronounce Gary Siniji's name, and I told them, and then of course they called him Sonji in the movie. So whatever you want to say. Elaine, Helen, Elena, they're all good.
Well, she's an excellent character.
Yeah, she is good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I liked her very
She will
much.
continue. She will continue. She's in it. She gets even more interesting in book 2.
Excellent.
Do you
And
have any
But
plans?
remember, you can't read book 2. You should start with book 1.
Start with book
Right.
1.
Yeah.
There's a question about, do you have any plans to go to the UK to do any promotion?
Not, no, yeah, I haven't been there in a while. Ever since COVID, everything sort of slowed down and, whatever. So, yeah, I'd like to get back there, but no plans at the moment.
Maybe
how
some.
many countries are your books published in, Jim, right now?
No idea. I don't know. A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Well, if you sold over 375
73. I don't know. Yeah, I know it's
73,
over
right?
400. Come on, let's call it what it is.
Well, my
But
point
I
is,
don't know. I don't know.
right, but my point is you can't actually go to all the countries, reasonably can't go to all the countries where your books are published. So
I don't want to go to all the countries where my books are published.
there's that too. Right. Do you have a room in your house for all your foreign language copies? Because, publishers generally do send authors copies of their works in all kinds of
Well,
languages.
sometimes we just say, that's okay. You don't need to send anymore. I mean, that's one of the problems, because there's I'd need a house, but not a room in the house. I'd need a house.
Your own library. Right.
And then it gets kind of braggy, if you're all the books it's just all your books. What I do have, which is fun for me, I have about 150, I don't know what the number is, in my office, of books that just have influenced me a lot, which range from Mr. Bridge and Mrs. Bridge and 100 Years of Solitude to some real commercial, Eye of the Needle, whatever. But it's a real mix. And some books that people have. Dice Man, do you remember that?
Oh,
Dice Man's cool. It's a cool book. Anyway, but some books that you haven't, that for whatever reason it had an effect on me. Different books like that,
Was that Evan S. Connell that did the Mr. and Mrs. Bridge?
Yeah.
He wrote
It's
those.
two separate.
up here on the wall is a copy of Thriller. Do you remember Thriller? It was the first.
Yeah, I do.
You were the editor. It was the first publication for the International Thriller Writers Association, which Jim has been a founding member of and supporting.
I think rather than having Jack Carr and Silva up there, you might have, like one of the big folks. But that's okay. That's all right. Whoever you have, your guardian angels, it's cool.
I rotate them, truly.
Oh, do you? Okay, good. That's
sure
good.
I do. No, definitely so. Well, we're almost at the hour there. So, Patrick, we probably need a last question, since Jim does need to leave us and move on to a different location.
Although a lot of people are coming up saying how much they like Boylan's products. So,
okay.
Black cherry soda is supposed to be excellent. So,
okay. All right. Now, Boylan's, feel free to send us a case down in Florida. Thank you very much.
Right. With all the books that you published, is there still something, a type of a genre of novel that you haven't attempted that you'd like to?
No, it's always the same thing. I want, you want to do one of those novels where you just go, oh my God, that one worked out exactly how I want it to work. I'm very happy with 12 Years to Live. That series to me is really turned out well. 12 Years to Live, and then 8 Years to Live, 4 Years to Live over the next 3. I think we'll probably change the titles, but I like that. And it, I did the autobiography, whatever, a year and a half ago, whatever it was. And that really got me concentrating more on the language, and, because I knew people would crucify me if it wasn't good. And that's helped. So since then, a lot of them, not everything turns out great, but I'm very happy with, as I said, the 12-month series. The Crichton turned out really well. And I like Holmes, Marple, and Poe, and it's very different for me, that book too. And it's good, at my age, being in my 40s, to, be doing some of the best work I've done, at least in my own mind. So I'm sure Biden and Trump feel the same thing as they get a little older, but you know,
You're
not-
exercising your brain, which is the root to successful.
maybe, yeah.
That was absolutely true. Are you planning on more nonfiction projects? I mean, I do think you've done some
Well,
fast.
we've got the, you know, as I said, the librarian, booksellers and librarians, the secret lives of booksellers and librarians, coming in April, which will be a lot of fun. And we're going to travel around a little bit for that because it's good because it draws attention to all the hard work that you all do and the threats and some of the stuff that's going on, which is kind of crazy. Librarians being fired and you know what for you know standing by and refusing to ban books. Yeah, so yeah, there's some things that are coming up that are going to be fun.
Hopefully you'll be out in our neighborhood. That'll be great.
It would be wonderful to see
Good
you
to see
again.
you
It's
again.
been,
Yeah.
we've been lucky that Jim has come to the store several times over the course of however many years. Well, this is our 34th year.
Well, I
So
love this store, and I love that area. It's really it's a great area to go visit.
golf is a key, right? Anyway,
somehow.
congratulations to Jim on publication day once again. Today being that day, Monday, January 8th. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank
Jim,
you.
for joining us.
Thank you
And
so much.
wishing everybody a belated Happy New Year and a chance to pick up
Holmes, Marple, and Poe.
Right, with a book plate. Indeed. Thanks very much, Jim. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Patrick.